So in the past few weeks, there's been a lot of panic buying, not just of toilet paper and hand sanitizer, but of firearms and ammunition. There's been a lot of people out there that maybe are new to the Second Amendment community and they have only got one gun or they don't have very much ammunition. And then there's the people that swore they'd never own a gun that are going to the stores and they have no idea what they're buying. They're finding out they can't get ammunition for the gun that they just bought. The gun they bought was the cheapest one, maybe not necessarily the best one for home defense or the easiest one to learn on or take apart and clean. There's been a lot of people that have been getting into guns. They're not necessarily part of our community yet, but they could be. But for those who were part of our community prior to this and are still new, or maybe they're younger and don't remember, or for those that might be a part of our community when this is all done, your voting record will show whether or not you're just a new gun owner or you're a new Second Amendment advocate. I want to talk a little bit about panic buying in my experience and maybe some things that you can do later on when this is done so that you don't have to deal with panic buying. And I actually wrote a script for this one, so here we go. Panic buying of guns and ammunition, empty store shelves, and price gouging has happened a few times already in the past 21 years. It started before Y2K, then 9/11, twice during the housing bubble, after Sandy Hook, right before Trump was elected. The best thing you can do is to stock up between panic buys. You see, before Y2K, people thought that the computers were all going to shut off on January 1st, 2000 because they weren't set up to run past December 31st, 1999, and it didn't happen. People weren't just panic buying guns and ammunition, but they were panic buying food, generators, and everything else. The next year, there were a lot of generators for sale, unused generators for sale, really cheap. After 9/11, people were afraid that we were going to go to war, and who knew what was going to happen. We had never had anything like this happen, or we hadn't had something like this happen since 1941, I should say. And people were out buying guns and ammunition. They were price gouging gasoline. People were scared. During the housing bubble, people were losing their jobs. They were losing their houses. And one of the things that seemed to disappear off the shelves were different calibers. I remember when .380 was missing for a year. I remember when .22 long rifle was missing for over a year. I think these things were just really popular. It's not that they weren't being made. It's just they were very popular. And when you go to the store and see that somebody bought out all of it, it just starts a chain reaction where people say, well, it must be important. I better buy all of it too. And I think that's what has happened recently with the toilet paper. And then after Sandy Hook, people thought Obama was going to take away our guns. He was threatening to, but he didn't. You could even say there was a little bit of a panic buy after Las Vegas because people thought that was going to happen, but it didn't. And right before Trump was elected, people, including myself, were really concerned that Hillary was going to win this, and she was threatening to take everything away, and we knew she was going to be the one to do it. So there was a lot of panic buying right before the last election, but Trump got in office and sales slowed down because everybody felt confident that he would protect our rights. But there's no guarantees. So in my experience, one thing someone can do is to stock up between panic buys. When first-timers are crowding the stores, your friends with 4,000 rounds of 9mm Luger suddenly need 4,000 more rounds, and Cheaper Than Dirt marks up PMAX to $100 each once again. You don't have any worries. Stocking up can be gradual. You don't need to spend a lot every purchase. Over a few years, build up an inventory. If properly stored, this stuff is sort of non-perishable. Another suggestion is to get into reloading. A lot of people are intimidated by it, but if you can do a brake job on your car in the driveway or garage, you can reload. It is a bit expensive at first, but over time it pays off. Just like ammunition and other supplies, you can buy a little at a time until you have what you need. Start off with a tumbler, then a press, a reload manual, then a scale, calipers, a powder measure. Get a set of dies, 1 pound of powder, some primers and bullets, and load your first caliber. Gradually get more stuff as you find out you can use it, like a bullet puller, loading trays and blocks, a case trimmer. Maybe you can find an entire setup on the cheap at an estate or garage sale. Don't forget spare parts, especially for your most used firearms. Springs, pins, clips, screws, etc. All the little stuff that gets lost, broken, or wears out. When everything else is getting bought, these might be the last things to go, but when we are under a 3-week stay-at-home order for all non-essential jobs, what if the warehouse or manufacturer you buy spare parts from is in that area and you can't do business for a minimum of 3 weeks and your EDC gun is down because of a spring? I've got through these panic buys before. I am even guilty of paying $81 for a brick of .22 long rifle out of state and bringing it home. I got my Wasser 10 not because I wanted an AK, but because I thought Hillary was going to get elected for sure. Otherwise, I've spent a little here and a little there and built things up. It took me 2 years to get my reload set up to where I could do a lot with it. I had the time. Why not? People new to the Second Amendment firearms community can learn a lot from these events, so they do not need to panic buy next time. And the people who are already in the community who maybe haven't gone through enough of these, just ask. Ask somebody who's been around for a while. They'll tell you about previous panic buys, if they remember. Thanks for listening.